Hi everybody, Dennis Brown here again. In the previous video, which was number 9, I covered some basic information about the Yamaha MODX, and we're going to dig a little deeper in this video. Before I get started, I've put in the pinned comments some links to some useful resources for MODX owners. There's a link to an excellent MODX users forum. You can get your questions answered there, usually some very knowledgeable people there. And then I put links to some of the online documentation. One of the links is to the user manual that comes with the MODX, the hard copy user manual that you get, which is very superficial. And then there's links to other user manuals from Yamaha on the MODX, which are a lot more detailed, have a lot more information. And it's the user interface, in some ways it's very good. Of course the touch screen is wonderful, but you have to, in some cases, try to think like a Yamaha engineer, and that's not always so easy. So in general, it's pretty easy to do most of the basic things you need to do, but to do more detailed things, it can be a little tricky to figure out. But hopefully with a little bit of help from me here, and there's lots of other YouTube videos you can watch. By the way, when you watch YouTube videos about the keyboard, you don't have to limit yourself to just MODX keyboard videos. You can also watch Yamaha montage videos, because the montage and the MODX are probably 90 or 95% the same. The first thing I want to point out to you is when you look at the performances in this kind of a view, without going here, I just selected category, and I'm in the performance category search page. But you'll see that some of the performances have a little yellow icon lit, and some have a little blue icon lit, and some have another light blue icon lit, and then there's a fourth icon which says SSS. Let's take them one at a time. The AWM, and here's an AWM. That stands for Advanced Wave Modeling 2. That's just basically a sound that comes from samples. Okay, that's what Yamaha calls their sampling system, Advanced Wave Modeling. The FMX is another way, and I don't see any that are pure FMX, but here's one that has both AWM and FMX. But FM is true synthesis, frequency modulation synthesis. So sounds that are generated by the FM engine inside the MODX are truly synthesized sounds. They're not playback of samples. The AWM sounds are. And you can see that you can have one or the other or both types of sound generation in a single performance. That third icon that I talked about, MC, motion control, that just indicates which performances will respond to one or more controllers in different ways. So if there's any kind of pre-programmed response to a controller, usually the super knob, but it could be other controllers, then you'll see that MC icon lit. And finally, that last one, SSS, seamless sound switching. That just tells you, and I'm going to show you an example. Here's CFX Concert. The seamless switching means that you can be playing one performance and then switch to another without having an abrupt interruption of the first one. So, for example, let me hold down a chord, and I'm going to sustain it, and then move to another performance. And you'll see that the chord did not go away. It continued to decay. That is, in a nutshell, seamless sound switching. And it's a good thing because it means you can change sounds in the middle of a song and not have an abrupt termination of one sound as the new one kicks in. So that's a good thing. Okay, those are some of the basics of these little icons here. And I'll go back, let me just say one more thing about the AWM and the FM. Normally you don't have to concern yourself with how the sounds are generated. I don't. When I select sounds to play, I select them based on what sounds good to me. And sometimes it might be just a sampled sound, like these concert pianos. Other times it might be combination sounds of the FM, or it could be just FM sounds. So that's not a big concern to me. The FM engine might be of interest to serious synthesizer people who want to change parameters of synthesis, change the algorithms in the FM synthesis. The keyboard is very deep in that regard. You can do things like that. I have never done anything like that, so I can't tell you anything about it. Yeah. Next, let's take a look at what makes a performance. And as I mentioned last time, the green colored performances are single part, and the ones in blue have multiple parts. This one has 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go back and pick a single. Okay, performance home, and let's look at the elements that make up this particular piano, the CFX stage. I'm going to just touch the part name right there, and I'm going to touch edit, or I could press the edit button over here. It takes it to the same place. Let's say edit. Initially, part settings general. These are some of the overall settings for this sound. You can change the volume of the sound. You can change the pan left or right, and you can change some of the effects parameters. But I want to show you first the elements. So again, in the hierarchy of the MODX, you have banks, and each bank can contain up to 16 pages. Each page can hold up to 16 performances. And now we're looking at a performance, and where do the sounds in the performance come from? Well, they come from the elements. And here they are, elements 1 through whatever. And there are different numbers of elements for different performances. Now, in this particular performance, which is the CFX Concert, there are multiple elements for this particular piano performance, the CFX, because piano is a complex instrument, and the timbre or the tonality of a note changes depending how hard you hit it. If I hit this softly, it's activating element 1 only. And element 1 is activating samples from a sample set called CFX Pianissimo, or PP. And ST, I assume that means stereo, not sure. If I hit the note a little harder, I get element 2, or harder still, element 3. And element 2 is MP, sample set, mezzo piano. Element 3 is forte, and etc. So they're just different sets of samples that are activated depending on how hard you hit the key. And also, some of the sample sets are only activated by notes hit at certain parts of the keyboard. For example, see element 7 lighting up there? So element 7 contains samples that are used just at the very upper registers of the keyboard. Let's create a brand new performance from scratch. That'll be instructive, okay? And you'll see why in a minute. To do that, I'm going to touch this init, and you have a choice of 4 preset initialized performances. The first one uses the AWM2 sound generator. The next one uses the FMX sound generator. You could do a drum percussion performance, or the last one here is multi/general MIDI, which I've not used. Let's just stay with this AWM2. I'll press enter, and let's select part 1. By default, you get 1 part, and let's hit the edit button. Also by default, it gives you a basic piano sample, which sounds like that, okay? But I don't want that. So we're going to change that. I'm going to touch the name of that sample set. Then I'm going to go category search, and let's do a synth. I'm going to go synth lead, and I'll select saw, which is a simple sawtooth, and then enter. And there it is. And let's do another element. Element 2 is currently turned off. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to touch the sample set name region here, and then go to category search, and I'm going to pick the same sample set again, the sawtooth, enter, because I want to show you something. So now I've got 2 sawtooths playing simultaneously. You really can't tell because they're the same and they're tuned the same way. But if I want to make a more complex waveform, I can take this fine pitch adjustment and make a more complex sounding waveform. So let's leave it there, and let's add one more element. Element 3, I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to go to a new sample. Let's do a pad, and I'm going to go down and pick maybe some strings. Okay, PWM strings stereo. Let's take that one, enter, and let's hear it. Now, elements 1 and 2 might be overpowering the strings, right? So we can turn their levels down. Let's try 90, see what happens with 90. Element 1, 90. Element 2 is turned down to 90, and that's fine. Let's go back to this master page for the new performance, and element 3. Let's say we only want the strings to sound when we get above a certain place on the keyboard. And I'm going to pick this note C, which is C4. I'll hit note limit here, and I could just crank it up to C4, or I can just touch C4, which is easier. Right? So now what's going to happen is so you'll see that it wasn't until I hit C4 that the string sound kicked in. It's not there, but it's there. So there's lots of things you can do. I'm going to leave it there. In addition to what I just did, you can, let's go back here. Yeah, you can mess around with attack, decay, release, etc., other parameters of each element. You can mess around with filters, and there's a whole bunch of filters to choose from. It's unbelievable. So you can pick different filters. You saw the amplitude page. You can pan elements left and right if you wanted to. Like if I want the strings only to be hard left, there they are. There they are. So the possibilities for creativity are pretty much endless. LFOs, element EQs, you can tweak the EQs of the individual elements. So it's tremendously powerful. Have fun with it, fool around, and we'll leave it right there. So how do you create scenes? Well, they're pretty simple. They're just snapshots. Basically, you set up the parts the way you want them, adjusting the individual volumes until it's exactly what you want. And then you just hold Shift and touch the scene key. And let's do an example. Let's say I wanted the scene just like this scene, only I also want the strings. So I'm going to crank up the strings. Let's go all the way. And then I'll do Shift, Scene 3. And now here's Scene 1. And Scene 3 is the same as Scene 1, only it's got the string ensemble turned on. I don't really want that. Let's clear it. How do you clear a scene? Go into the Scene tab on the left here. And then we've got Scene 3 selected. And just turn all of these off. And go back to Home. And you'll see the screen, the Scene 3 button has gone dark. And it does nothing.